Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Tennessee Titans in today's video, tonight's video. It's 9:30. Happy Friday. I was reading an article from Christopher Knox on Bleacher Report, and he was selling that Titans quarterback Cam Ward's not getting the attention he deserves. Jeffrey Simmons the other day said he's never seen the #1 overall pick get the respect, or not get the respect, quite frankly, the attention he deserves. And the guy on, the article was saying, well, Ward became the common sense quarterback, and once that became obvious, he's stopping a headline-grabbing prospect. He largely faded into the offseason background because the Titans, with all due respect, are not a high-profile NFL franchise or one with a recent track record of success. I will not be gaslit into believing that Cam Ward's not getting the attention he deserves because it was so clear-cut that he was the #1 pick in the draft. That was never the case. A lot of people, in fact, most NFL draft analysts with like ESPN and all that fun stuff, it was rare all the way up until draft night that Cam Ward was like the clear-cut consensus #1. And it had me thinking about Bryce Young a few years ago. It had me thinking about Caleb Williams last year. And I will not be gaslit into thinking that Cam Ward's not getting the attention he deserves because it was common sense. I don't believe it, because people were ridiculing Cam Ward being selected #1 overall. Maybe not the majority, but there was definitely a lot of people out there. And I think, if you're a Titans fan, or if you've been following this channel all summer, or even the past couple of summers, I'm always big on this Titans team. I do really like Cam Ward, and I keep reading power ranking articles and all that kind of stuff, and Tennessee's usually always 31. And if you're curious who number 32 is, it's almost usually always the Cleveland Browns. I genuinely don't think the Titans are the second to worst roster in the National Football League. I really don't think so. And it's funny because you'll have these rookie QBs, Jaden Daniels last year, CJ Stroud the year before it, kind of turn a franchise around. But when you dig a little bit deeper into the surface, the franchise was making proper moves to set it all up. And so I look at a team like the Tennessee Titans. People are ragging on left tackle Dan Moore. Well, the rest of their offensive line's kind of promising. I like their offense. I don't think they're the worst defense in the NFL. And I just don't see Tennessee being like a 3 or 4 win team this upcoming season, no matter how quickly Cam Ward acclimates. Obviously, last year, the biggest flaw with the Tennessee Titans was throwing the football. They ranked last in the NFL with a team 57 PFF passing grade. The Will Levis experiment obviously didn't end up working out. Neither did the Mason Rudolph sitch. But now you got your quarterback of the future. And before we talk about this offensive line, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. I do apologize, Titan fans. We haven't made a video on this team in way too many weeks, so I do apologize, but I appreciate you all for being here, especially on a Friday night. The X factor, it appears, for this upcoming season is going to be your left tackle, Dan Moore. I was doing some digging because he got ridiculed all offseason as being like the worst signing in the entire NFL, and the main reason was it came down to money. $82 million contract for 4 years. Now, when you do get into the meat and potatoes of that contract, it's very much front loaded. So I would assume in like 2 years from now, if it's not working out, they can get rid of him and move on. He's coming off the best career season he's ever had, 67.2 PFF overall grade. The nitpick people are saying is that ranked 42 amongst all NFL tackles last season. But here's the thing. He was a 4-year starter at left tackle with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was selected in the 4th round all the way back, sorry, that sounded old, but back in 2021, that's when he got drafted. So he's 26 years old, and he had a really brutal end to his 2024 season. He allowed a league-high 12 sacks. He also recorded 21 penalties over 4 seasons, including 11 holding calls. And I get it, maybe those aren't the best statistics overall, but the nitpick people have, and maybe we won't get into it, basically just to summarize, if you read like an offensive line ranking from any network out there, they usually have Tennessee as a bottom 5 team. I look at this squad and I'm like, all right, the right side's set. They picked up Kevin Zeitler from the Detroit Lions. J.C. Latham moves back to his original position of right tackle. Lloyd Cushenberry at center. My Northwestern legend at left guard. And now they've got Dan Moore at left tackle. And I've covered the NFL for a few seasons. I was pretty big into Pittsburgh last season because their fan base is pretty supportive of this channel. And I wanted to go back and look into some stuff of why Dan Moore and his just kind of like what everybody's saying about him was so bad. And I will admit it's the contract, 4 years, $82 million a year, or not a year. Relax, not a year. But you get it. It's an overpay, or everyone's saying it's an overpay. When I went back and I looked into the research, the data, the film, it was pretty apparent why Dan Moore had a brutal end stretch for Pittsburgh last season. Basically what happened is Russell Wilson came in around, I think it was week 7, and he holds the ball for long periods of time. You know, that's what we know about Russell Wilson. He holds the ball for long periods of time, so that doesn't help your offensive linemen in general. But the majority, or that stretch of games where Dan Moore was getting picked apart last year, also the whole Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line was, he played Myles Garrett twice, the Baltimore Ravens 3 times, which they finished as the second most sacks as a team in 2024, played Trey Hendrickson twice, then also played the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. So I don't know if you remember at this point last season, Pittsburgh got off to a really nice start. They were like 8-2 in their first 10 games, something along those lines. And then they ran into all these powerhouses. And I feel like Dan Moore kind of got picked apart just like their whole team did. You know, Pittsburgh started really hot and then they fizzled and faded and their whole offense stuttered. And so I feel like, you know, is Dan Moore the best left tackle in the National Football League? More likely than not this upcoming season, but is he an upgrade from last year? 100,000%. Is he an upgrade in general? 100,000%. So if he's above average, I really don't have concerns for him or the Titans offensive line. So Cam Ward, when we look at him, face of the franchise, was the #1 rated college quarterback last season. He's got great arm talent. He's got a cannon. He ranked 2nd in the country with 31 big-time throws in 2024. Tennessee, by the way, only had 43 passes of 20 yards or more last year, which was the 6th lowest in the league. And Cam Ward in that category, when he threw it over 20 yards last season with Miami, 12 touchdowns, only 1 interception. So then we get to the wide receiver room, and unfortunately we're kind of running out of time here. I don't get the hate. I also love Tony Pollard. I like Tyjae Spears. I like their tight end room with Josh Wiley. You still got Chig, and then rookie Gunnar Helm, who I think is super underrated in general, fell all the way to the 4th round of the draft. Calvin Ridley's underrated. Tyler Lockett just saw his lowest targets in like 6 years. I know he's 32, but that was a big-time signing. You have like 3 rookies who are ready to impact right away, and then you've got a good floor guy in Van Jefferson. So just to summarize real quick, I don't think the Titans are the 2nd worst team in the NFL. Maybe I'm wrong. I know I say this a lot every summer with the Tennessee Titans, but I don't think they're as bad as people are making them out to be, no matter how even Cam Ward performs right out of the gate. So, folks, that's it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button, hit that sub button, but give me a loose win-loss projection record for Tennessee down below. Peace.